Let me begin with the essentials. Trump announced that the new semiconductor tariffs will be declared next week and are expected to be implemented in the near future, roughly between the 21st and 25th. This is important because it is based on Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act, which grants the authority to take emergency measures if imported foreign products threaten the national security of the United States. Based on this investigation, President Trump is expected to announce measures regarding semiconductors, indirectly suggesting that large-scale tariffs may be imposed on semiconductors since the threat is deemed significant enough to jeopardize national security. Recently, President Donald Trump reaffirmed his intention to impose tariffs on electronic products, including semiconductors. On April 13th, he emphasized via his social media that the measure announced on April 11th was not a tariff exemption, but rather that these products would continue to be subject to the existing 20% tariff previously applied to fentanyl, with only the tariff category being changed. The president explained, "What was announced last Friday was not a tariff exemption. These products continue to receive the 20% fentanyl tariff, just shifted to a different tariff bucket," and indicated that a meticulous review of the entire semiconductor and electronic product supply chain will be conducted through the forthcoming national security tariff investigation. Meanwhile, through the presidential memorandum on April 11th, the semiconductor and electronic product items excluded from mutual tariffs were specified in detail, and accordingly, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, officially announced this on the same day. As a result, major electronic products, including semiconductors, have been excluded from the 125% mutual tariffs imposed by the United States on China and from the tariffs applied to other countries such as South Korea. However, thanks to the grace measure taken by President Trump, in some countries including South Korea, only a basic tariff of 10% will be applied until July 8th. Nevertheless, the United States intends to maintain the separate administrative order imposing a 20% tariff on fentanyl, a narcotic painkiller, on China, which did not cooperate in blocking its entry into the U.S. In relation to this, concerns have been raised in the U.S. media and industry that President Trump may retreat from his hardline stance and effectively exempt electronic products from tariffs, and voices from the Democratic Party and others have pointed out the lack of policy consistency. In response, officials from the Trump administration explained that electronic products, including semiconductors, have merely been excluded from country-specific mutual tariffs, and the tariffs will be imposed on a per-item basis according to the results of the forthcoming national security tariff investigation under Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act. Just as items critical to national security, for example, steel or automobiles, already have a 25% tariff imposed, electronic products including semiconductors will not be subject to overlapping tariffs. U.S. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick also clarified on this matter by stating, "These products fall under the semiconductor category and will be subject to specially targeted tariffs so that they are re-imported and produced within the United States, thereby making it clear that the aim is to strengthen domestic manufacturing in the U.S. for the sake of national security and the protection of core technologies." He stressed that key technology products such as semiconductors, chips and displays must be produced in the United States. In addition, separate semiconductor tariffs will be applied from 1 month later to major electronic products such as smartphones, laptops and computers, which were previously excluded from reciprocal tariffs. This is because these items are considered extremely critical to national security, and the timing for imposing the tariffs has been set to help alleviate some market concerns and financial instability. However, the semiconductor tariff rate is expected to be lower than the 125% reciprocal tariff imposed on China. In summary, the changes in the electronic product tariff policy can be interpreted not as a simple tariff exemption, but as a phased approach achieved through the reorganization of tariff categories. The United States is thoroughly analyzing the supply chains of electronic products and semiconductors through this measure, while simultaneously pursuing the protection of national security, safeguarding core technologies, and strengthening domestic manufacturing. This policy change is seen as a multi-layered strategy aimed at securing strategic advantages in the evolving trade disputes with China and other competing nations. This is not a recommendation to buy or sell, subscribe to receive better information faster.